I told you it would come to this. I was right.
Australia and New Zealand.
They're taking over.
I think those were almost the exact words I said a few months ago when Brodie Kostecki was announced to drive for Richard Childress Racing for a race at Indianapolis. Well, here we are a few months later. Another Australian Supercars driver could be heading to the United States for a few races in 2024. We have talked a lot about Australian Supercars drivers on this channel, which 1 year ago, I would have never guessed. I would not have been able to name any supercar drivers. I would have been able to name one former driver, Marcos Ambrose, because he used to be in NASCAR. Here we are in 2023, December 2023, and I can probably name 5 or 6, including 3 who either are going to run NASCAR or have run NASCAR. It has been a complete, it's mind-blowing, really, how quickly this Australian Supercars has taken over NASCAR. Now, obviously, they have not, completely outrun NASCAR drivers. It's not like they're, Cameron Waters is going to take over Chris Buescher's seat or Brodie Kostecki's taking over Austin Dillon's seat. Well, that would be something. Yeah, sidetracked. But we have seen these international drivers in the past 2 to 3 years with the next-gen car, not just supercar drivers, but international drivers come into part-time cars or, run a race for a full-time car that has part-time drivers, and we'll see them run races in an attempt to see how NASCAR goes. Once again, not just supercar drivers. We've seen F1 world champions like Kimi Räikkönen, Jenson Button. We've seen some endurance drivers. We've seen Mike Rockenfeller in a couple of races in the Cup Series. We've seen Kamui Kobayashi in the Cup Series. I could go on about the different list of drivers. We've seen Jacques Villeneuve, Daniel Kvyat. It's a long list of international drivers over just the past 2 years versus, 2010 to 2021. It's been a lot of international drivers, and now we've added the Australian Supercars wild card, and that has been the most competitive group of the bunch. No disrespect to the other drivers I just listed or the ones I forgot to list. They've been, they're great drivers in their own field, but, the NASCAR world has not exactly suited their style. Some of them have done decent, but they have not done as good as SVG. That is the, prime example of international driver right now, SVG. And we have seen this revolution, as I said, with the Australian drivers. But before we get more off track, it's been almost 3 minutes and I've already gotten so off track. Let's actually talk about the news here today. Cameron Waters, Australian Supercars driver from Australia, in case you didn't know that. You see, it's not a guarantee. SVG's from New Zealand, which is, kind of next door. Point being, I'm getting sidetracked again. Here's what the news says. Nothing official from RFK, but here is the article from Supercar Magazine Extra. Ford star Cameron Waters is set to join Supercars champion Brodie Kostecki with select NASCAR forays next year. Waters is looking at 3 NASCAR Cup starts with leading team Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. The secret deal is done, awaiting confirmation in the wake of his 1-year renewal with Tickford Racing, his Supercars team. So there's quite a bit to process there. Obviously, Brodie Kostecki, we've talked about him a couple of times on this channel, ran back at the Indianapolis road course for Richard Childress Racing. He has a couple of connections with them, and he's looking to make more starts in 2024 with them as well. Nothing official yet, but they are trying to get something done. And now we have our first non-Chevy Supercars driver coming to the States. Of course, the first one was Shane van Gisbergen. Then we had Brodie Kostecki, both Chevy drivers, or with Chevy teams in the Cup Series. I believe they're also Chevy over in Australia. And now we have a Ford driver. So, as I've said, we've talked about SVG. We've talked about Kostecki. This guy is new. He's different. When you put the 3 resumes up against each other, you have SVG, 3-time Supercars champion. I think he has over 80 wins. You have Brodie Kostecki, who's the most recent Supercars champion. And then you have Cameron Waters. He's not a champion yet, but he does have, I believe, 11 career wins. So all 3 of them have done a good amount of success in the Supercar series. And now they're moving over to NASCAR. Now, Kostecki and Waters are not moving over full-time like SVG, but they are dipping their toes in the water, trying to get a feel for it trying to figure out, how successful can they be? How much fun is it? How much, are they willing to push themselves to their boundaries? And it seems that, these dominoes keep on falling. Now, to once again, I've done this like 20 times on this channel, it feels like, to go back through the first domino that fell that really started this trend was Shane van Gisbergen. It was announced about May, maybe June of 2023 that SVG would be making his NASCAR debut in the Project 91 car. The Project 91 car at Trackhouse is their all-star car, their international all-star car that they put international NASCAR drivers in to see how they will do, to give them a shot at NASCAR if they want. We saw Kimi Räikkönen make a couple of starts in that car, and then next in line was Shane van Gisbergen. And to say SVG had instant success would be an understatement, because he won his first ever Cup Series start, which you do not see a lot of, by the way. And he didn't win at a super speedway. He didn't win at Talladega, Daytona, last lap crash, snuck through the field. He won at the Chicago Street Race, the first ever street race in NASCAR history. Extremely impressive. He had street race experience, which helped. And, he really, taught the field a lesson that day. Well, then we saw the next domino fall, which was, he got a taste of NASCAR. He got a taste of winning in NASCAR very quick. And he said, let's do this. I want to pursue this as a full-time thing. I'm willing to come over to the United States of America and try this out full-time. And then after that, the next domino fell, which was another Supercars driver coming over, Brodie Kostecki. Kostecki got a taste for it. While he didn't win in his debut like SVG, he had competitive pace. His result didn't show. I think he finished in the lower 20s, 21st, 22nd. But it could have been better. He qualified 11th, but due to a crash in the last round of qualifying, had to start at the rear of the field. The next-gen car, it's extremely difficult to pass on the road courses and the short track. So, he was kind of screwed from the start of the race. But if he had started 11th, I think he would have had a more competitive result. So now he wants to get more of a taste in NASCAR. That's domino number, I think we're on domino number 3 now. So next is domino number 4. What happens after this? We've had 2 guys come over, get their tastes of it, enjoy it, and come back for more. Well, now we have a 3rd guy reportedly coming into the NASCAR Cup Series to get himself a taste of NASCAR, and that is Cameron Waters. So, and this is a little bit, it's kind of the same general situation as the first 2. You see an international, Australian Supercars driver coming over to the States to race in a part-time car built by a competitive team and go enter into a Cup Series race. But this is different because RFK Racing is almost comparable to Richard Childress Racing, I would say, in their trajectory over the last 10 to 15 years. But it's been slightly different paths. RCR, they were championship contenders through the Kevin Harvick era, I would say. So when Harvick left in 2013, since 2013, it's been a struggle for Richard Childress Racing up until the last couple of years, really. The next-gen car, they have a combined 7 wins over 2 years, whereas the previous 8 or 9 years, they had maybe 5 wins. That might be generous. But everything was the same in terms of the ownership group. Richard Childress Racing was owned by Richard Childress. Andy Petrie was up there, higher up. But RFK is different because Roush Fenway Racing is a long-time historic NASCAR team that has won championships. They've won tons of races. But they did a different approach to get back to the competitive level with winning races. And that was they added a new owner to their ownership group. And they didn't just add, some billionaire who has a lot of money to throw out the window. And that's no disrespect to billionaires who just throw money out the window to NASCAR. But it was a current NASCAR driver, a NASCAR Cup Series championship driver, Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski comes into the team, revamps the team in a sense. The next gen era hits and they hit the ground basically running. It took until later in the year, but they got their first win as an organization with Keselowski on board, and Chris Buescher won the Bristol Night Race. And then they take about 3 steps forward the following year. Both cars make the NASCAR playoffs. Chris Buescher wins 3 races, makes it to the round of 8 of the playoffs. Keselowski, no, he did not win a race, but he still made the playoffs, still made a decent run. And they're now considered, almost back to where they were 10, 15 years ago, winning races, consistently being competitive for race wins, being a legitimate championship threat. And now they have a third car. They announced it a couple of weeks ago that they were going to have a third part-time car, kind of like the Project 91 car. It's called Stage 60. It's not being promoted as an international car, no. But they announced that the first driver would be David Reagan, one of their former drivers from, about a decade ago, that he would be racing the Daytona 500. And I asked when that happened, what are they going to do with the rest of these starts? We've seen the Project 91 car. We've seen the 33 car at RCR. Are they going to make this like an international thing? Are they going to get some non-NASCAR driver to come in, get themselves a taste of NASCAR like what I've been talking about? It would appear that this is it. Now, once again, it is not confirmed that he will be in the 60 car. Nothing has been officially confirmed, but it would appear the case is that Cameron Waters is going to get his first ever NASCAR start in the number 60 car with RFK. So he's going to be in a competitive car. He's going to be in a car that's good at road courses. Chris Buescher, he had a streak at road courses over the past 2 years. I think he had like 10 straight top 10s or something, 7 or 8, maybe 9, somewhere in that range of consecutive top 10s. So RFK, they build competitive cars as of the last couple of years. They've built race-winning cars, and they've also been competitive on the road courses, and now you got a Supercars guy in there. I'm very curious to see how this goes. We saw the success with SVG. We saw the pace that Brodie Kostecki showed. Now, once again, he did not provide the result due to the qualifying crash, but the pace was there. And now we have a third guy, Cameron Waters. What can he do in the Cup Series? Can he have the competitive pace that Kostecki had? Can he have the competitive result that SVG had? I don't know. Time will tell. And as for which track, I don't know. If it's 3 tracks, I would assume it's going to be road courses to start his career off. This does talk about in this article that he wants to run in the U.S., that he wants to race in the U.S. I don't know if that means full time, but that he wants to, try different things in the U.S., I don't know whether that means ovals, whether it's short tracks, super speedways, or even your typical 1.5 mile track. But it seems like he's going to be making 3 starts this year. Once again, I don't know which tracks those are. If they're road courses, I would assume they are. I think our first road course race in 2024 is Circuit of the Americas at the end of March. We'll see if that ends up being the first race for him. But yeah, we're going to have another Supercars driver in the field, it seems like. I don't know how competitive he's going to be. Once again, I've got no idea what's going to happen. We'll see how RFK does next year. We'll see how that third Stage 60 car does next year. There's a lot of question marks, but we do have another Australian Supercars driver reportedly coming to NASCAR to test the waters in NASCAR and to see, can I do this thing? It seems to be the trend recently, and I enjoy it. I'm not complaining at all. Once again, I've said this in past videos, I like seeing international drivers come to NASCAR, and the Australian Supercars drivers seem to enjoy it, and they've had success in it. I think it makes it fun. It adds an extra storyline. It adds something, a little spice to it for a race weekend, so I enjoy it. And then also from the sponsorship standpoint, he is sponsored by Monster in the Supercar series. It appears that Monster would follow him over, so, you got some financial implications there. That's always a help. But yeah, thanks again for watching this video. If there's any more Supercar drivers that are coming over to the United States of America to race in NASCAR, I'll let you know. But once again, unknown. Nothing official yet, but it is being reported on. Very interesting reports. We will see. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day or night, morning, wherever you are.